Drivers, start your engines!
Hit the pace car! What for? Because you hit every other damn thing out there, I want you to be perfect!
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. It's him, but he talks to me.
Well, I wanna be a race car driver, pretty girls eating from my hand, yeah. Wanna live a life of fun and danger, no sweating working for the man, alright.
Hey, race fans, welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network and welcome to the Drafting the Circuits program. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about this weekend racing and preview next week. Joining me in the studio, I have Richard Youden, I have Luis Torres, and I've got back from being away for a while, Seth Eggert. Guys, how we doing?
We're good,
Doing
thanks.
well.
We're really good.
All right, so Seth, I want to thank you for coming back on. I know you've been, despite the fact you've been cheating on me with another podcast. I hope your other podcast is going well, but I'm pleased as heck that our schedules lined up and we're able to have you on because I know you're pretty excited because Talladega was this past weekend. We tried to get all the races in for all the weather issues we had there, but at the end of the day, at the end of Monday, actually, it was certain Mr. Darrell Wallace Jr., affectionately known as Bubba, who came to victory lane. And I know you have followed Bubba Wallace's career since he was in ARCA and trucks.
Yeah, actually, even before that, when he was in what's now the ARCA East Series, then NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. And I remember him driving the U.S. Army number 6 car. He drove a number of cars for Rev Racing, which is now supporting Raja Karut and Nick Sanchez and others that are coming up through the driver diversity pipeline. But for Bubba specifically, I've followed his career, like you said, since then. I've chatted with him at the Bojangles Summer Shootout when he's hopped down to do that during some of his free time. Talked about his photography with him. He's a really nice person in general, and it was so refreshing to see him finally break through and get that win.
Yeah, he's been in Cup for is it 4 years or 5 years now? In a couple years with Petty, but at the end of the day, this is a pretty big win for the 23XI team because they came into the season with a lot of high hopes and expectations, with a lot of good money behind that team. You've got two high profile owners between a certain Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, and to see them grab a win, even if it's a rain shortened race, and a lot of people don't want to give Bubba his due, but I mean, look at the way he powered that car from the back to the front to be in the position to win. I think anybody that wants to say NASCAR gave him a win or he only won because it rained really didn't watch the race, because Bubba has performed well on these plate tracks. The 23XI team has performed well in these situations as well, and everything fell their way.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to discount a rain shortened or a darkness shortened win, 8 drivers in NASCAR's modern era has actually earned a win in a rain, darkness, lightning, or fog shortened race. Davey Allison, who's in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Eric Almirola, Chris Buescher, Justin Haley, Joey Logano, Ryan Newman, David Rudiman, and Bubba Wallace.
Right, and then in the whole history of NASCAR, I believe the stat I read was there was 52 in the modern era. Right. So yeah. I mean, it's part of racing. We all know that. I mean, you're gonna get your win when you get it, and sometimes you can look at a situation where everybody pitted and you stayed out, and then the rain fell and you got a lucky win. That was not the case here. Bubba put himself up front, Nobody else pitted. Everybody was racing for the win. He had the fastest car right then and there, was able to be ahead of the accident when it happened, and there you go.
That and his choice to block Logano and not block Keselowski also handed him the win, because if he had gone down to block Keselowski, he might have actually been passed and then not won. Just the way it worked out, him choosing when to block, who to block, and how to block.
Exactly, yeah. So this win is historic for a couple of reasons, right? So number one, it breaks the so-called McDonald's curse.
Yes.
You know, where we haven't had a winner in a McDonald's liveried, full McDonald livery car. I mean, there was a couple of Jamie McMurray wins where he has McDonald's as an associate on there.
And there was a Bill Elliott
Bill Elliott
shootout.
Non-points race, right? Yeah. But since Jimmy Spencer won at Talladega back in 94, that's back when I worked with Jimmy Spencer. That's the last time McDonald's has seen victory lane in NASCAR. And for
so
McDonald's,
it was your fault then, Frank.
Huh?
It was your fault then.
Right. Yeah. When I left McDonald's,
yeah,
it all was downhill. It was all downhill from there.
Yeah. Were you in victory lane?
I mean, oh man. You know what my job was with McDonald's marketing when I was at the track? To make sure Jimmy Spencer got to the sponsor events on time. I got to go pick up Jimmy. And to this day, I mean, I know we're way off topic. To this day, I think Jimmy is a wonderful human being. The guy is so fun and so funny. But anyway, so we break the McDonald's curse, okay? It's the first win for a number 23 car since, I believe, 1954?
1954 with Al Keller at Oglethorpe Speedway in Savannah, Georgia.
Man, Seth, I knew you'd be right on these stats. That's why I miss having you on the show. And then, of course, the first win for a African-American driver since Wendell Scott in Jacksonville, Florida in 1963.
And
although it took them a long time to recognize that win.
Yes. And it's the first win for a principal African-American team owner. Because even though Brad Daugherty co-owns the 47 car, he's a minority owner in the team, not a 50-50 owner, or I think it's 60-40 with Hamlin for Michael Jordan.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, so what's next for Bubba? He's got this, the monkey off the back, so to say, of not having win in the Cup Series. Now he's a, bona fide Cup Series winner. That builds a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence, not only with Bubba himself, but with the team and the crew and everybody. So, and we've got a couple of races left, and they've got to be going into the Roval all smiles.
That, and also, at least for the rest of the season, they can at least, I don't want to say experiment, but just get reps in as a team, because with the next gen car coming in next year, a lot of stuff, at least for this particular car, this is the last time they're running these cars. So that Speedway car that he ran at Talladega, I would not be surprised to see that in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Or even on display at the eventual permanent 2311 shop that is being built, if I remember correctly, in Cornelius, North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, because they're not going to run another super speedway race this year. So yeah, that car will be a museum piece.
Yeah,
and rightfully so. Yeah,
yeah. And as far as the Roval, I wouldn't be surprised if Bubba is hoping for a little bit of rain, because he was running well in the rain at Coda until the spray got to the point where he couldn't see, and neither could Cole Custer, Kevin Harvick, or several others for that matter, and got caught up in a wreck. But there's some drivers that they have a little bit of expertise on running in the rain, and Bubba is probably somewhere in the top 5 or top 10 for the Cup drivers with that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's been a lot of rain through the area, that's for sure.
So watch out for Joey Hand.
Sunday looks clear though, doesn't it?
Yeah, Sunday looks clear.
Saturday's wet.
Yeah.
So again, the Xfinity race. Remember that Xfinity race a couple years ago? That
literally last year.
Oh, was it last year?
Yeah.
Time flies. But man, I had never seen so much rain at a stock car race where they just kept going. That thing was, looked like a hydroplane race. But anyway, so behind Bubba Wallace, we had both Penske cars, which puts them in a very nice position with the cutoff race coming up. Who's not in a nice position is all the guys whose last name ends with B, which would be Bell, Bowman, Byron, and Harvick. Kevin Harvick are all on the
Sorry.
below the cut line. Yeah, I know. It's just trying to be silly. If Kyle Busch was there, it would make sense. But he's one above the cut line. He's not safe by any means, especially if Harvick has a good day. So Seth, Louise, Richard, let's talk a little more about the events of Talladega this weekend. We had 3 new winners all across the board.
Yeah, certainly. Out of all the 3 first-time winners, the least I expected was certainly Tate Fogelman. Because, of course, like, when I get out of work right around a couple hours before the truck race, and then when I only caught the tail end of it, and I realized, what? First off, half the field was 3/4 of the field were gone because of the big one. They had to rewind and check that they had a red flag for, no surprise. And I saw Tate Fogelman in the top 10. I was thinking, wow, Tate Fogelman is actually in this mix, because usually when it comes to incidents, Tate Fogelman has one of the worst lucks when it comes to incidents, period. Lo and behold, a caution for Chase Purdy, which honestly, I don't think it warranted a yellow. He spun it, went through the grass. Had it gone through the white flag, you probably would have saw, I think, Todd Gilliland won that one. But they threw the yellow, and we had more trucks wrecking at the very end. And then out of nowhere, Tate Fogelman was up in front and battling with, I think, John Hunter Nemechek.
And Tyler Hill.
Tyler Hill. I was getting to that point. But John Hunter Nemechek, that battle, then Fogelman, of all people, won. And then, lo and behold, he got tangled by Tyler Hill. And then Fogelman wrecked. So for the second time in the span of a month, we see a national touring driver win the race and end up going to the Care Center first, which also makes Young Motorsports a second win in 3 years now.
And here, let's make this a little crazier. For the Xfinity race, Brandon Brown wins because of a late wreck and number of wrecks that they had in the Xfinity and truck race with all the red flags. They were encroaching on darkness, and the late wreck by the scoring loops had Brandon Brown in the lead with 8 laps to go. Because NASCAR intended originally on restarting the race, they went by the scoring loops that put Brown ahead. Brown gets his first win. Now, for Brandon Brown, he drives a 68. The last driver before Brandon Brown to drive the 68 was Jay Fogelman, Tate Fogelman's father. And Brandon Brown's team shares the shop with Young's Motorsports, which is Tate Fogelman's team. So both teams in the same shop won. And like I said, Tate's father had the previous best finish in the 68 car before Brandon Brown.
That's really neat, man. You know what I mean? When you start looking
I've missed you. I've missed having you on the show, Seth. I really have.
Yeah.
It seems like it's become what is emblematic said, a downward spiral or something like that. That's how this whole week has been. He releases a video about Talladega, and all more shenanigans happen about Talladega. Talk about irony. That's how I view the spiral, whatever he calls it these days. That's how I define it. But yeah, big win for that entire double organization that shares the same race shop, because I think Brandon Brown have 2 race shops, one in Carolina, one in Virginia.
Yeah, one back home in Virginia and one in North Carolina that they share with Young's Motorsports. I actually know where the one here in North Carolina is. It's over by the Mooresville drag strip. There's a number of teams over in that area. Jennifer Joe Cobb's team, who apparently doesn't know how to install brakes.
Yeah, the Parker, the ripped off Parker, broke Parker Kligerman's right rear suspension. Yeah, Yeah, right rear. Excuse me.
Yeah, and then her husband, Eddie Traconis, who was the crew chief for Chris Wright, got indefinitely suspended by NASCAR for a behavioral issue.
Oh, yeah. I read about that.
So what were the specifics of the behavioral issue, or are they just
That's all that they have
that's all
said.
private? Yeah, okay. All
I
right.
think he punched somebody from another team.
That's
Well,
the
that'll
rumor.
do it. Yeah, I mean, that's
Reading between the lines of the
Or
statements.
he must have had somebody had enough of whoever talks smack about her wife, his wife, or something like. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere went on those lines too.
Yeah, yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah,
so happened
so-
to coincide one another.
so interestingly enough, coming out of Talladega, we've got NASCAR making national mainstream news for a couple of reasons that are not related to the racing, right? And the one is when Brandon Brown won, the crowd was chanting something that the NBC reporter said, "Oh, listen to the crowd; they're chanting, 'Let's go, Brandon." Although the crowd was not chanting that.
Although
yeah.
I will say, I've listened to it multiple times over. The very first one, maybe two chants were "Let's go, Brandon." A good 2 minutes later, when Kelly Stavis said that, they were not chanting "Let's go, Brandon."
No, they were saying something very disparaging about the president of the United States. And
Bunch of
and that's,
drunks must have misheard.
well, again, I hate the fact that it puts the spotlight on the ignorance of some people that enjoy watching NASCAR. And as NASCAR struggles to, be more progressive and more open, then they have these sort of things that look like a black eye, right? And NBC looks like they're just trying to cover their butt in the case the FCC wants to give them a little heat for airing profanity. But so that was all, at the end of the day, is what it is. You can't control what the fans in the stands do. But then the backlash on social media for Bubba Wallace's win is just, it's just deplorable. Some of the things I've read, you know what I mean? And it's just, it makes me sad, and it's like, of course, the overwhelming thing is, oh, well, NASCAR gave him the win. Oh yeah. Like NASCAR can turn the rain sprinklers on. Right. But I read one that said, the article attached to the social media post was, had to do with Bubba being the first African-American winner since, 1963. And then there were more than a few people that said, oh, but he's not even black. He's mixed. I'm like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, as long as a human race has been around, we all have some mixed ancestry in our past. Okay. You know what I mean? Are you going to tell me I'm not Polish because my mother's Irish? Just the ignorance of the things that I see, just makes me sad.
If I can quote Bubba on this, because
go right ahead.
Something he said at Daytona because of a fan that was heckling him at the Coca-Cola stage at Daytona. It's just dumbass race fans.
Darfs. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And but at the end of the day,
unfortunately, it's more than that, though, isn't it? I know we say that, and we I don't want to get off topic here and get on my soapbox, but we always want to try and like pigeonhole these people that do it, who say these stupid things. But it is so, we say it's the minority, and on the whole, it is the minority. But eventually, the minority becomes the majority at some point, and it's just deplorable. I just don't get it. And unfortunately. And I'm sure Bubba would like to say a lot more than, oh, they're just dumbass race fans. It's more than that. It really is. And there's no place for this in any walk of life. And so for example, if you go to, there's big issues in Europe at the moment, and especially in Eastern Europe, with during soccer games, racist chanting towards Black African players, and it's getting bad, really bad. And UEFA have turned around and said, If we hear that from fans, we will bar fans from that stadium for the next race or the next game or whatever it may be. And the clubs, they've got CCTV cameras. They know who's doing that. They prevent that fan from going to that venue in the future. That's the only way they're going to stop it. I know it's not really working that well in Europe, but NASCAR needs to stand up and say, right, we are going to look at the cameras. We're going to see who made those disparaging chants during that race about Bubba or about the president or whoever it is. And that individual will be banned from the track for life, period. And if it continues, we'll run the race without fans and make the tracks take responsibility for the people that go through the gates. The only way we're even going to start making an example of it. Because if the sport just brushes over it, it's showing that they don't really care. Oh, well, it was the minority. Okay, well, do something about it. If it was one, that's one too many. It really annoys me when they say, oh, well, it was one or had a few drinks and it's, well, let's do something about it. I'm like to think I'm coherent enough that I can have a few drinks and not shout out racial slurs at an athlete. Goodness me. Sorry.
Okay, so
now.
I was gonna say I thought you weren't gonna get on the soapbox.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't do a very good job at that today.
Well, here I'll add just a little bit to that, and what I mean by that is I wrote essentially an essay over on Kicking Tires about my personal experience as a Jewish race fan and what I have gone through as a race fan, and that stuff doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to happen to me. It doesn't need to happen to Bubba. It doesn't need to happen to whether it's Louise, Frank, anyone here.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to happen to Hispanics, and I'm worried about when Suarez wins. There's going to that's going to be a massive uproar depending on where he wins.
Well, I had it working in the sport as a guy from Europe. I had pretty disparaging things said to me, but it's to me as an individual, it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And it wasn't on a public setting; it was in a private setting, and I'm not going to lose it. But it's when it's in the public like this that they need to make an example of these people, because otherwise, if they just say, it's like a kid. The kid does something wrong, and you just say, oh well, it was a one-off. The kid's not going to learn. If the kid does something stupid, you discipline the kid. And they need to start disciplining these people and disciplining the tracks.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, let's kind of move on from this. I had talked about in the preview. I didn't want to devolve into the big conversation about this, but I do believe it needs to be said, and I appreciate all you guys chiming in. But let's talk about the other NASCAR story that made national news, and that would be about Jon Wes Townley, which is a pretty bizarre little story. Now, Jon Wes Townley has run in the Truck Series and Xfinity Series. He's a race winner. He retired from racing not that many years ago. His family founded the Zaxby's restaurant chain, which was very supportive of his racing career. He always had that Zaxby logo on the car. But this is an odd incident where, a domestic violence escalated and whatnot. And, the details are a little guarded, but the best I can tell is that, he's estranged from his wife. They have filed for divorce. She's currently cohabitating with another gentleman, as she's free and well to do if they're separated. And he came to their house with a hatchet, evidently to do some damage, and he ended up getting shot and killed. Because by all the reports I've read, it looks like Jon Wes was the aggressor, and the girlfriend was also shot, and they say that one was by accident. So I can only imagine that his intended target was the woman. He came after her, and then the other guy trying to save her accidentally, caught her with a bullet. But the whole thing is just bizarre, and it's sad that people go to these lengths to try to repair a broken relationship. I don't know. Louise, Seth, you got anything on this at all?
Yeah, it's kind of absolute. It kind of sucked the life out of me, because of how I found out that news, because I was I was at the ballpark watching the Mariners play the Angels, in which the Mariners playoff drought continued, by the way. Fortunately, the Talladega race was postponed, so I didn't miss much, so I was able to see what happened Monday. But it just took me off guard. It just that happened that I had to double check if this article was reliable. Lo and behold, it was. And to see a guy like it was literally 6 years to the day that he got his lone truck series win, which people want to talk about. Oh, it was rigged. Oh, he was lucky about a few months. People forget Jon Wes Townley had a strong truck all night that race. He was a top 5, top 10 truck the entire time. He just was in the right place at the right time when he got the win. And on top of his 2 Daytona 200 wins in ARCA, he got better over time. But it kind of makes me wonder if there's more to that, to where there are reasons why he retired that early, or it's just the troubled past that he had that kind of altered his career a bit, made it played into a role. We'll probably never know. Maybe eventually once more details come out. But it was just not the news that I hoped to be hearing, and also just kind of the whole circumstances of what happened is just kind of unfortunate as it could get. It's just one of those things where you wonder, but you don't know until there's some details.
And again, I mean, it looks like they're not going to file charges against the guy who did the shooting, which kind of tells you it's more or less of a case of self-defense. And a lot of these states have what they call castle laws or whatnot. So if somebody, breaks into your house, anything that happens to them is in self-defense. So, we may never know the full story, but at the end of the day, Townsley was a regular participant in the series and a good dude. And it's just sad that that it's come to this, and you kind of wish you would have kind of saw some help or counseling rather than feeling that this is what it needed to do.
I think it does, quickly, I just wanted to touch on this. I think it does show as well that, and we forget this at times, these people that we see on TV and we idolize in some instances in sports all over the world, not just racing, they're real human beings that suffer the real mental strains and personal strains that we all go through on a daily basis. We have this sort of concept that they're indestructible, or they're a different way of being, and they're not. They're the same as you and I, and they go through the same personal issues. And social media can be a very dangerous place at times. I'm not saying in this instance that's anything to do with it, but we really should be a little bit more considerate of these people when we sort of discuss them on that level.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to a happier topic, which is we're heading to the Roval. And I, for one, I like the Roval. I mean, some people are, what I mean? They're still on the fence about it. But I indeed like the Charlotte Roval. I think it's got a good mix of, the nice cruise along the oval and some very tricky bits in the part of the course, and a lot of braking zones that if you don't hit them just right, you're going to be knocking down those banners and stuff. So who do you guys like for the Roval? Because this is an elimination race. And again, like I said, we've got Bell, Byron, Bowman, and Harvick on the bubble.
I genuinely like William Byron's chances because he's not that one. He's had pretty good runs on the road courses all season. He's coming off from back-to-back 6th place finishes at the Roval in 19 and 20. If he's going to do that Bristol magic that he did where he was on the outside looking in and makes it in by a thread, I can see his same repeat, except for his case, he has to win, period, to really assure himself he's going to make it to the round of 8. You can't have just a so-so top 5. He needs to be up front, period, to put himself in an ideal spot. But I do like his odds right now, so that's my pick.
All right, so Seth, are you heading out to the Roval this weekend?
Yes, I will be at the Roval this weekend.
All right, so tell me what your thoughts are coming into this race. I know, Charlotte, that's your home track. It's close to your house. You've been there a ton of times. So, I mean, what kind of race are we going to see the Roval this week?
Well, for the Xfinity race, it'll be a chaotic mess in the rain, unfortunately, at least if the forecast holds the way it does. For the Cup race, it looks like it's just going to be cloudy. So I would think you're going to have some of the usual suspects up front for road courses. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, maybe Ryan Blaney, maybe Brad Keselowski. He's been good on road courses, but this year not so much. Truex as well. That being said, Bowman and Byron have both been quietly consistent at the Roval in the past. So I wouldn't put it past either of them for pulling off a surprise.
All right, that's a good assessment there. Yeah, honestly, I think again the guys who have got a lot of oval racing experience in their pocket, I think the Roval is just a little more palatable to them than racing at a Road America or a Coda or something like that, because there's again, the Roval's got no elevation changes to speak of, and it's a little more business as usual than getting out to a natural terrain road course. And I think some of these guys that don't necessarily shine out there can have a pretty darn good day on the Roval. Now, Richard, your thoughts?
Pretty similar to what Seth and Luis have just said there earlier. It could be a good event, as you say, a cut-off. So, you could see some of the guys on that bubble sort of with some pretty broad shoulders there. I really don't think on a road course you can look, much past Chase Elliott there. But it'd be good to see, a battle between those 3 or 4 guys either side of that bubble there to see who'll get through.
Absolutely. So who you guys picking for your win? I'll start with you.
I'll
Seth.
go for
I'll start with you, Richard. I'll start with you, Richard. You'll go for
there we go. Yeah, I'll go with who did I say? Elliott. There we go.
Elliott. Okay, Louise.
Byron.
Seth.
I'll take Bowman then.
And I'll take Truex. He's another guy needing another win here going into the next stage of the thing. So,
and real quick, here's my Joey Hand prediction result. I say he finishes 8th in the Stewart-Haas prepared Rick Ware entry.
So Joey Hand finishes 8th. Okay. I didn't realize that was the thing. We had to pick where Joey Hand was going to finish.
He's the road ringer for the Cup race. For those who don't, IMSA driver. No,
I know who Joey Hand is. Yeah. So,
I just want to double check.
We're gonna double check.
He was one of those Red Bull guys from 2002 that had like Ryan Hunter-Reay and Scott Speed as well, if I remember.
Yep. All right. So, speaking of Ryan Hunter-Reay, let's talk about IndyCar a little bit because there was a little thing going on at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway today where a couple of guys who had road course only schedules this year were doing their rookie orientation program. That would be a certain Mr. Jimmie Johnson and Romain Grosjean. And these guys were able to complete stages 1 and 2 of the rookie orientation program. But weather stopped them from completing phase 3. But both guys had some, both of them looked pretty good. And I think Grosjean he's signed on next year for the full slate of the season, run all the ovals.
That's correct.
Right. Jimmie Johnson is still up in the air a little bit. He's not committed to any ovals, but he says some of his quotes, he said Carvana, number 1, would be happy to sponsor him in Indy, which certainly makes sense. Carvana has been a very good partner to them. They, if you see all the Jimmie Johnson Carvana commercials, but he's got to run it by the family and whatnot. And I get that, but they both seem to have a really good time out there. We had Grosjean had James Hinchcliffe out there helping him, give him pointers. And Johnson, some of Johnson's comments were kind of funny. He says, wow, it feels so much lighter than a Cup car. I'm like, well, you think it is kind of 1,700 pounds lighter. But he said the only thing similar to running that oval in a cup car is the fear going into turn one. He said that, yeah, the car breaks quicker. And as he ran lap after lap, he said it's more of a matter of getting the car to roll, dealing with the G-forces and whatnot. But he sounds like he had a pretty darn good time. And it sounds like Grosjean had a pretty darn good time. And they've completed enough that when we go back to the Speedway in April for the veterans test, they're going to let these two guys run despite not having been 100% signed off on the rookie orientation program.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting April test. That means more than likely Colin Milon and Kyle Kirkwood are the ones that are going to be in that rookie orientation test in April. I guess with Kyle Kirkwood winning the Indy Lights Championship, he gets the 3-race deal that guarantees him also an Indy 500 entry. And of course, Milon's running full time.
Don't get ahead of our curriculum.
No, we're talking about rookie orientation.
No, yeah, but we're Kyle Kirkwood's next on the list. So I'd mess with you, Luis, because I love you, man.
But at least I can transition to topics quite smoothly, unironically.
All right, so there you go. So let's talk about Kyle Kirkwood, and let's talk about the road to Indy. The road to Indy occupied Mid-Ohio this past weekend. They crowned all three of their champions. It was Kyle Kirkwood winning the Lights title. Kiko Porto won the USF 2000, and Christian Rasmussen won the Indy Pro title. So with that being said, Kyle Kirkwood does get the scholarship, which guarantees him an Indy 500 start. And is it 3 other starts or 2 other starts?
I think it's two. I think
it's two other. Yeah. So
3 that includes the Indy 500.
Right. And this is the interesting thing. Okay. So almost everybody that's come up through Indy Lights and won the title has been able to take advantage of this. Some of them have been able to parlay that scholarship into a full season. I think there's only one guy who declined it.
I think one never made it far. I think it was, I mentioned it once a while back ago.
Yeah, no, I'd have to look it up. It was, it was Champ Car days, somewhere, split days.
Oh, it was early 2010s. When you think about, because everybody else that won the Lights title.
I'm trying to remember who that was, but yeah, there was one guy who just declined it, went somewhere else. But here's the thing with Kirkwood, right? So, but you've taken like a guy like Gabby Chavez, won the thing, was able to parlay that into the walk into a full-time ride with Brian Herta. Somebody else walked into a full-time ride with Coyne. I can't remember who that was. Spencer Piggott. Was just
Piggott.
Piggott was just 3 races, which he took with Ray Hall. So who takes up Kirkwood on the offer, right? Obviously, Andretti wants to keep Kirkwood in the fold, right? They've said that publicly. Although the open Andretti seat is pretty much almost signed, sealed, and delivered to Devin D. Francesca, who was Kirkwood's teammate. I think Di Francesca brings a little more funding, but Andretti doesn't want to lose Kirkwood at the same time. Andretti's talked about, putting Kirkwood in his Formula E team or, somewhere else just to keep him in the Andretti family. Although there's some strong rumors that suggest he'll take his Indy Lights scholarship money to Dale Coyne. And all this is up in the air, but it's really interesting to see how Andretti can put Di Francesca in a car and still retain Kirkwood. I mean, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that Andretti puts Kirkwood in the 3 Indy races, including the 500, because we do know Andretti has ran as many as 6 cars at the 500, and then farm him out to Formula E until such a time that they feel comfortable making part of the full-time IndyCar team. But there's just not a seat available on the full-time IndyCar team if they put Di Francesca there. So, Louise, what are you hearing on this?
I can definitely vouch for the fact that the Coyne thing holds some strong water. Because when I was in Long Beach, I saw him roaming around within the Coyne paddock, the Ray Hall paddock, I think just talking to friends. That's how I just interpret it. I don't view it as anything bigger other than she's just hanging out with his buddies and all of that stuff. But I think more than likely I could see the coin thing being strong because I know that 18 ride, from as far as I know, is vacant. They haven't coined Vassar Solomon and said nothing about Ed Jones staying in that car. And if they want to get somebody that can deliver, Kirkwood is that guy. Jones's time is over in my book. Kind of
Right.
and I think a lot of people's eyes, he wore out his welcome.
So there's that seat. Plus, there's the other coin seat, which is being vacated by Romain Grosjean, which some people have linked that seat to Takuma Sato, at least on a part-time basis. And we'll talk about Takuma a little bit more. But I really don't see Michael letting Kirkwood go.
No, I think if you give him a shot at Formula E, does what he does around the world, maybe it'll do him well. It's going to be unfortunate that probably your best Road to Indy driver of all time, probably the best Road to Indy talent since probably Greg Moore or Paul Tracy, go somewhere else because there's just no seats available. It's kind of with Nick DeVries down in Europe to some aspects where your main feeder series champion does not go up to the top level on a full-time basis.
Yeah, Nick DeVries is another guy who's stuck there in a holding pattern. Yeah, so and then there's the odd case of the second Juncos car. When Juncos has signed on Calamilot for the whole 2022 season, but they have said that, with the influx of money they have from the other partner that's joined them, they're going to run two cars. So I mean that's a possible landing spot for Kirkwood, if he brings his sponsorship money there, because Kirkwood's not loyal to Honda or anything like that. Unlike a guy like Sato who's out looking for a ride,
or Hinchcliffe,
Hinchcliffe was all set and ready to drive a Chevrolet for McLaren until they let him go. I don't think the Hinchcliffe Honda thing is as binding as Sato. I was Sato
Honda Canada, primarily.
Well, Sato's been tied to Honda his entire career.
Since once he joined, because I know when he started in Jordan in F1 in 2002, were they a Ford or a Toyota camp? Richard, were they a Ford or a Toyota camp in 2002, Jordan? Because I know they were Ford in 2003, Ford Cosworth. Oh. Right. I'll figure it. That's a different topic for another time. But yeah, he's been loyal to Honda for a real long time, going back to his F1 days.
Going back to his junior series days.
Yeah,
been the Honda
when he started late in racing age years.
Yeah. He was 20 when he started karting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, since we're talking about Sato, we'll go ahead and. Yeah. The news is broken that Sato will not be returning to Rahal, although this has been one of the worst kept secrets that Jack Harvey is going to take the 30 seat, although that's not been officially announced yet, but that's the other worst kept secret. So that should be official in a couple of days here. So, but yeah, Kirkwood is interesting because here you got a guy with the scholarship money. And he could take it wherever he would like. Andretti would like to keep him in the fold. But if Andretti says, hey, I'll keep you on for 3 races and you can do some Formula E or, they've got a couple other teams and other weird series. Kirkwood might say, yeah, but Coyne will keep me in a car for all 17 IndyCar races.
Yeah, and I think he'd be odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year, too.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, that also. Because if he goes to part-time, then it's going to be complicated. But I think he'd be a 22 Rookie of the Year honoree. They'll acknowledge it, I believe. Because I look back to Pato in 2019 or 2020.
I think the limit is 7 starts, I think. You have to have less than 7 starts.
whichever he decides, he'll probably be an odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year, regardless which class he ends up, 22 or 23.
Oh no, actually, it's less than 5 starts. Pato had seven starts. That's because he between
The Sonoma 19, and then the couple from Carlin.
the couple from Carlin. Yeah, yes. No, it's 5. So if you have less than 5 starts, you can declare to be a rookie the following season. So if Kirkwood only has 3 starts in 2022, he can be a Rookie of the Year contender in 2023. But I think Kyle Kirkwood himself is itching to get in an Indy car.
Yeah, I mean, because he could have been in this year's roster had it not been for COVID.
Yeah,
it's kind of been a long overdue for him to be.
Sure, because Indy Lights lost all season. Now, speaking of Indy Lights, we didn't address this recently, but Indy Lights is moving away from the control of Anderson Consulting, and it's going right under the direct control of IndyCar and Penske Entertainment. So
yeah, that was also confirmed at Long Beach, and
right
scholarship talks is going to be announced at a later time when I interviewed Mark one-on-one after the initial presser. So I'd be curious to see what they do with it.
And this is a topic that we've talked about, that while it seems like they have great fields for, USF 2000 and Indy Pro, the step up to Indy Lights is very cost prohibitive. But I wonder if by moving Indy Lights under the IndyCar banner, if it's going to force the hand of some of these other IndyCar owners to run a lights team. Because right now, Michael runs a lights team, and he's always been very supportive of the ladder series. Ganassi and Penske have never run lights teams. Sam Schmidt used to run a lights team. So you don't have any of these, like you see in NASCAR, a lot of the Cup teams also have Xfinity teams, but you really don't see that in Indy Lights. So I wonder if by moving it under the IndyCar umbrella, if we will have more participation from the top level IndyCar teams to run a lights program.
Yeah, I'm just curious who will actually join the fray of Andretti and also now Hyunko, since they're full-time in 22, add them to the mix, because I know McLaren, Arrow McLaren have interest, but they got to see if it makes sense to them to do it. Because if it is the best interest for the team to have an Indy Lights program to help them build their future, especially if they won that third car, then they will probably look into it. But it's just kind of what the team wants more than anything. And I hope to see more, because if we get more IndyCar teams have an Indy Lights program, the field size will grow, which I know a lot of people view the field size as deplorably weak, despite having a really good crop of drivers, even if there's 2 or 3 of them. But I think it's important for them to grow going forward to keep the Indy Lights healthy, because the other divisions look okay, field size and team numbers otherwise. Just Indy Lights don't have that many, to where you see only like 2 or 3 stand out, which honestly, that's just happens since just in junior formulas period. There's about 2 or 3 that will stand out, and there's maybe 1 or 2 others that maybe will get a chance. And there's a few others that just hope what they can do will get them far.
Yes, we'll have to see all that plans out. I would imagine, just myself, it's going to be, it's not going to happen immediately. It's going to be over the next 2-3 years.
Yeah.
As we get Indy Lights under the IndyCar banner, that we'll see some growth in that series. But I would say 3-4 years from now, it'll be thriving. Particularly because we know, Roger Penske knows what he's doing. So,
yeah, it's just no Freedom 100. That's all.
Yeah, that's still a curious decision for me, because that's always a fun thing to watch on Thursday or on Friday this day and age, on Carb Day. I don't know why we're not doing that. Maybe that'll come back. I don't know. You almost wonder if Roger likes the keeping the oval specifically for the 500. Because, he was involved in that decision to move the Brickyard to the road course as well. So literally right now, the only race on the oval is the 500, and maybe Roger likes it that way. He's not said that publicly, but I got to wonder if that's part of the motivation for putting the Knicks on the Freedom 100.
Yeah, and aside from the Freedom 100, it's fine because as much as the Brickyard 400 added a lot, as you heard the NASCAR drivers say, they like running the oval because it's just there's no other oval like it. It's also Indianapolis, so running on the road course just like it to some people's eyes, just any other race of the season, despite being running at the venue that hosts the 500. But yeah,
exactly. So, all right. So, Richard, are you back? Maybe Richard.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are. There you are, Richard.
I answered my question. When Sato drove for Jordan, it was indeed a Honda, not Toyota or Ford.
Yeah,
Honda.
I don't think Sato's driven anything other than
his family.
Other than a Honda.
He has family connections with the Honda group, so yeah, he would never drive anything but a Honda.
Makes me wonder those Foyt years. I forget it if they were Honda.
Yes, they were.
Okay,
they most certainly were. Foyt switched to Chevrolet when I think it was
when Sato went to Andretti.
No, it was when roughly the same time period, but when Ganassi switched from
Chevy to Honda,
and Chevy was left with very precious few teams in the fold, so they picked up Foyt.
So yeah, either or it's going to be staying in the Honda fray for, like you mentioned, Coin being a Honda program. So
yeah, so in Formula One and IndyCar, he's never driven anything in a race that wasn't a Honda engine. He was a test driver for Toro Rosso in the 2008, and that was probably a different engine. That was probably
that must have been the Ferrari
engine.
Yeah,
but I don't think he drove it in a race or at a
no.
Even as a test driver. So 2008,
yeah, because once Super Aguri folded, he was out of F1. Period.
Yeah, and that was the reason the Super Aguri was founded, was because Honda or BAR Honda let him go to bring in Rubens, and there was such an uproar in Japan about letting him go that they basically built a team around him for 2.5 years, and until they run out of money. And actually, in 2007, the Super Aguri team was more competitive than the Honda team.
That they were. So speaking of Honda, this would be a good transition to our Formula One segment. So it looks like Red Bull is preparing a special livery for the end of the season.
Yep.
To mark their end of the association with Honda. And
too bad they won't be running Suzuka.
Yeah,
I think that was the plan, wasn't it? That was the plan, that they were supposed to be, at Suzuka running this, because this is the race that technically replaced Suzuka. They would be running it with this special livery that, the classic sort of off-white and red Honda colorings there.
Yeah. So so if I'm not mistaken, right? So Red Bull is going to continue to use the original Honda power plant, the base of it, and then develop it on its own.
Yeah. So
are they bringing in a manufacturer to badge it, or is it just going to be called the Red Bull?
Red Bull racing engines or Red Bull technology engines. So from my understanding, the rules and regulations are set in place for the engine configuration through 2025, I think it is. So there's 3 or 4 years of relatively calm engine regulations. Then there's a lot of talk about what engines are going to be developed in the next 5 to 6 year window, past that through to 2030, which is when they want to go 100% carbon neutral with renewable fuel supply for the series. So in the short term, they will basically be running the Honda engine, next year, what Honda would have been developing. However, they are taking along a lot of the development themselves, and they are recruiting a lot of people there. I know personally know a number of people that have gone over to that team and or to that manufacturing partner, and we'll be working on those engines. So I expect them to be competitive. I think it'll be a pretty seamless transition, and there's some pretty big name players there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. I just hope that the one-off paint scheme curse doesn't happen to Red Bull, because look what's happened. It could happen to anybody. Look at Mercedes and Hockenheim.
Well, we used to run that back in the day when I was with, she worked for Honda, and back in the early
555,
the 555 when they went to China. We had a few like that and the like, and I mean, it's I don't.
Budden got a podium in that livery? Didn't Budden get a podium?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Jensen got a podium in that. I think it was one of the years we ran that car. I'm going to say Anthony Davison drove it in Malaysia, but I think they ran the conventional BAR livery in that race when Anthony stepped in for Takuma Sato, who had food poisoning, whatever it was for that race. Unfortunately, Anthony only survived 2 or 3 laps before his engine let go, which was a shame for him, because it'd been great for him to have a decent run in that car. But it'd be good to see him. But of course, both Red Bull and AlphaTauri will be running a special livery of some sort this weekend, so it'll be good to see. And obviously, it's not unprecedented in Formula One, these special liveries. We saw I said Mercedes a couple of years ago at Hockenheim, and McLaren had their special livery earlier this year, which looks stunning around Monaco. So it'll be good.
No,
all right.
Sure.
So we are racing at Turkey this weekend, right?
We are, yeah, and the forecast is for rain
again,
as it was last year. So,
but they have resurfaced the track, or cleaned the track, should we say, which should hopefully
as I recall,
reduce the likelihood of
the track was pretty slick last year.
It's Bambi on ice, wasn't it? It was,
which I think the biggest fan of the change is probably Valtteri Bottas. Good grief, he
was all over the place.
Yeah, that was his worst race of his career last year at Istanbul. When Hamilton probably had his best race ever, that was Bottas easily his worst of his career. All around race.
Okay, so we've just got about 3 minutes left of the show, so let's go ahead and make a pick for Turkey. Does Lewis Hamilton extend his win streak to 101? Does Max Verstappen make a statement here and take back the points lead, or does somebody else come to the forefront? Because we've seen pretty good guys, up front lately that you don't ordinarily think of in the form of some of the McLaren and Williams guys.
I mean, I personally think if it's a standard race, should we say, in terms of weather and the like, although chances are it won't be, I think you'd have to put it. I would go with Max on this one. I think with his new engine he picked up in Russia, although he's already got one race under it, chances are they had it turned down for the majority of that race. And he actually did fantastically well with a new engine starting last to, get a P2. I mean, that's a huge result for the team there. So, that's a fantastic, they couldn't have played that any better, really. So, I'd go with Max, I think.
So you're going with Max. Louise, who do you like?
I feel like McLaren's momentum will continue. I think I want to go with McLaren, but I feel like this might be a sleeper, unpredictable race. So I'm going to go with Carlos Sainz for this one.
He'll be doing really well because he's got an engine penalty. He's starting last.
Yeah. So.
Well, then to take that back to Hamilton. Then.
All right. So you're taking Hamilton then?
Yeah. Forget what I said about Sainz. Now that you bring up the engine penalty, which darn.
Oh man. Okay. So I'm gonna say that McLaren does continue their momentum, and Lando Norris sneaks this one in because
be good, wouldn't it?
Well, he sneaks it in because Lewis and Max tangle again. I mean, we've had enough drama this year with Lewis Max Tangling. It's not out of the question. We'll see it again. Yeah. So
last lap of turn 8.
Last lap of turn 8. Yeah. I don't know if it'll be on the last lap, but either way.
That's the only thing missing from this saga.
Yeah.
You have your turn. You have your opening lap. You had your middle. We need the last lap to complete the cycle.
All right. Well, as long as Lando wins, that means I win the bet. So anyway, I want to thank you, Richard. I want to thank you, Louise. Seth, I know you've already signed out, but I want to thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to listen to your stats and figures and numbers.
Sheesh.
And but I want to thank iHeartRadio, Hoobazoo Radio Network, Spreaker, YouTube podcast, and Google. But till next week, I want to thank you folks that listen to us every week. Till next week, good night.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Hoobazoo.com.
Enter website.